Hello. We're going to start our conversation because here is a very busy person in this festival, Director Karin Coonrod. I wanna tell you a few words about Karin because it's a very interesting character. Karin Coonrod is not only a director but also a writer, and her work has been seen and heard across US and around the world. The New York Times calls her, I love this, a theater artist of far-reaching inventiveness using a style that deconstructs to construct. And you're going to see a deconstructed King Lear and a very beautiful construction out of this deconstruction. She adapted and directed King Lear first time to open the International Festival of Arts and Ideas, right, in New Haven. And then her Lear was remounted at La Mama Experimental Theater in New York in 2024 and then 2026. She also staged The Merchant of Venice in the Jewish ghetto in Venice. That's amazing. And also in a high-security men's prison in Padua, in Italy, and on tour in the US. She staged her own script, text, Beheadings, Elizabeth R. at the Folger Theater in Washington, D.C. and BAM next to a festival, and in a woman's prison. I have to talk to you about that. She authored many notable productions with Shakespeare's plays, Henry VI, Love's Labour's Lost, at the Public Theater, both of them in New York, when she was an artist in residence, and then King John, Julius Caesar, and Coriolanus, Hamlet also, and The Tempest at La Mama Theater in 2014. So she's a lover of Shakespeare, obviously. She's a founding director of Compagnia de Colombari from 2004 until this day and forward, an international company with which she launched a new tradition of theater in the streets of Orvieto, Italy. Karin Coonrod is on the faculty of the David Geffen School of Drama at Yale University since 2002. And a book about her work in theater, we were talking about that, is under contract with Bloomsbury Publishing in UK. It's called The Transnational Theatre of Karin Coonrod, edited by Josefina Comporali and Noemi Farkas. Welcome to Craiova International Festival, dear Karin. Is it working? Hello? Yes, it's working, good. So, few people know, and I didn't say that in the introduction, that you have deep connections with Romanian theater, not only because you staged here before, not here, but in Craiova Hungarian theater in Cluj, Hungarian theater, but also because, and first and foremost, because you studied with Liviu Ciulei in New York, and there are so many layers of influences that I think, at least I think I can see in your productions. So you work with him at the Guthrie Theater after graduating. What would you see, in your work, what do you still feel coming from Ciulei? Is his shadow always around you, or it's already departed? How do you think?
Well, Liviu Ciulei was my teacher in my second year at Columbia University, and when we got to know each other, when he walked into the room, I thought, this is my teacher. I knew right away, because he just stood out for me, and it was the European. He seemed almost like my nonno. He almost seemed, I'm half Italian, so I felt at home. And so he took an interest in my Macbeth and then asked me to assist him on the Hawkeye at the Guthrie Theater, and that was a long process, and he was even teaching me a little bit of Romanian. That's why I just hear that la rivedere, and I would eat dinner every night with him and Helga, his wife, and so they became very close. You know, it was generational. He was older, I was younger. I had an urge that he could see, but he responded to, I think we responded to each other, to the poetry that we have. And that's what he said to me right away when he chose me to assist him. He said, you have poetry inside of you. So he always had that poetry, and I was so happy to meet him in Bucharest, and twice. And
When was that?
that was in 2009. I first came and with Vishki Andrash to do some work on his plays in Kolozsvár, Cluj. There was I never knew that Transylvania and Hungarian, Romanians, you know, is a whole different culture, and very interesting to me. But you know, then meeting with Liviu, it was a joy. And for fun, he was just building a piece of architecture. He was such an architect, like his father, and so I would say that, you know, I've been connected to him, but we're connected, you know, but it's different. It's different. So, and he would be happy, you know. It's the hardship of making one's way in New York City is a great teacher in itself. To test you whether you're serious or not, and it's a good thing.
You're really serious
Yes,
about that.
it's very serious.
And I think what Julie would love to see is the way you treat the set as part of the concept of the production.
Yeah.
It's not just an adjustment.
No.
It's a whole concept, and you will see that in King Lear. We saw that in the streets, because you staged productions in the streets, and that's not easy at all. And in various alternative spaces. Why do you do? What inspires you to do that?
Well, I think theater can exist any place, and I feel that very strongly. I'm excited about radical presence, especially in a time when we are so distracted and by these devices that we have, the telephones and all this, and constant attention-getting things, to work on radical presence, which the theater can create. When we do our work and then give ourselves to an audience to do their work, then something can happen very, very special. And so in the streets, the company that I formed in 2004 is called Compagnia di Colombari, and we are the ones, so it's Italian, but we were born in Orvieto, Italy. And some of these, most of the images come from Colombari, but some are from previous productions. The ones in the street of Orvieto, and to answer that question, I love the way light, so I also was very influenced by art history and by painting. So here, the one that we just saw of at night, I was very influenced by chiaroscuro and Caravaggio and Rembrandt, and you know, and so the light and the dark, and getting to the heart of a story, getting to the heart of the story. So with the medieval mystery plays, we were doing several of the stories, yes, like this, which was a five-way intersection in Orvieto, which the radical thing that we did, and radical in English is like radice, you know, it's root. So it's going to the root. And here's in front of Orvieto, there again, the chiaroscuro of Mary holding the light of the world. So I wanted to be literal and poetic in the same moment, and acknowledge the chiaroscuro. This is from The Merchant of Venice, and that's the Tempest. But in the first production that we did 3 years in a row in Orvieto, which catalyzed a new tradition of theater around the time of Corpus Domini, Corpus Christi, I wanted to bring people into the story and then bring them also, it was an itinerant production, so we moved and we did scenes in the dark. It started at the moment of twilight, you know, the moment where, the magic moment, T.S. Eliot calls a violet hour, you know, the hour where the sun goes down and the darkness descends and then the lights come out. And it's very exciting. I mean, we get to experience that every day. That's a miracle.
But we don't pay attention.
No, we don't pay attention. Yes, and so in the theater, you know, we can make things happen.
So you use space, you use light to extract the poetry out of the essence of
Yes,
theater,
yes,
right?
yes.
How does the public respond, the audiences? Well, they follow you on the streets, right?
Yes, yes. In the piece, which we hope we can do again, the medieval mystery plays in Orvieto, or something like the opportunity to do The Merchant of Venice in the Jewish ghetto of Venice was an absolutely extraordinary event, and it never had that happen before. So we looked at how to use the space. We were not going to build a stage, because when I was speaking to some of the people there, they had done other events there and they had built stages. And we thought, no, we want to be right on the stones of the ghetto. Immediately, actors' feet on the stones of the ghetto. And so we created stadium seating for the audience to sit in. So with the Merchant of Venice, it was a different story where we were facing the two synagogues with their 5 windows of the Torah, each of them, closed as if the eyelids were looking down and blessing the space. It was quite, you know, the stunning German synagoga, and then the Italian one, a later one, but the German one was built around the time that the ghetto was founded. So, and around the time that Shylock would have been there. So we were honoring on that occasion the 500th anniversary of the founding of the ghetto and the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's death in 2016. So it's also the occasion of the time and the moment and it was a very frightening moment because there was a lot of anti-Semitism. In fact, the Jewish Museum of New York was very afraid to come and cancel their trip because the Bastille, there was many shootings and attacks in Europe in 2016. And we had 16 police around all the time. And I said to the actors, it's dangerous, but we're going in to do our work, and this is what we live for. So we all were game.
And history was looking on you, literally, from those windows, right? Yes. It is no pressure. And we are in a time that 10 years from that moment when this is happening again, unfortunately, in some places. And also, this is the moment when I thought it's the most relevant to see King Lear, like you did, as a collective consciousness rather than a single character. Like it's usually done. What prompted you to make 10 Lears out of one?
Yes, so many things. I've been working on the play for a long time, and I first started to work on it with students. And when the opportunity, King Lear never goes out of fashion. King Lear is always, because of the urgency of its own text, written by the writer in its time. And talking about feeling, 3 of the main characters talk about feeling the energy of heaven, feeling your soul, feeling the words, and not just speaking them, but feeling them, both, Lear, Gloucester, and all 3 of them say this. So when I thought about, and also the opening scene is a scene that when you really look at it, it's all about quantification, measuring. How much do you love me? The question is really a corrupt one. How much do you love me? To be spoken publicly is really egregious, and so the first daughter, and I've always thought about that first daughter and how Lear turns to her and says, "Goneril, our eldest born, speak first." And of course, anybody that's a first child knows what the pressures of the first in the family, what that person bears. And so, you know, and there are beats in the text where there's little pause, beats, you know, empty space, we call it different things. And she steps back and says, "Sir, I love you more than word can wield the matter." And I think she's a little thrown off by the question, and then she realizes she needs to play the game, and then it's easier for Regan to play the game, and they even compare herself with her sister. And then by the time it gets to the third daughter, she changes the game. She says, "Nothing. What more can you say?" The king asks, and she says, "Nothing more." So it's the words. No writer loves words more deeply, you know, than this writer. It's endless, the mining that one can do into these words, and how the text revolves around nothing, and nothing is introduced in the first 2 pages of the play. So the whole play changes because of what she says. And I think that's extraordinary. I mean, it becomes not a play about just a beautiful actor's performance, but a play about all of us needing to experience what the urgency of this message is, to move from message or urgency of the question, urgency of going into the dark night of the soul, urgency of you know, the quantification, and of course in America, where everything is quantified, everything's measured, and everything is very commercial, and money. How much did that cost? How much does that castle cost? You know, these questions, which are, you know, painful to hear. And in that first scene, it's all about that. So there's something that we're caught in our concerns, the quotidian concerns, and where it goes in the end is a place beyond measure, beyond. So I like to think of this as a kind of forgiveness in the apocalypse kind of play, where, you know, the writer sensed it in his own time, and we are always in a position to be able to. Now, of course, it's intense. Right? It's intense, it's embarrassing, it's extraordinary what's going on. And so the need for the community, the collective, to come around, but in tension with the flourishing of the individual, is what I'm trying to do with the company. You know?
And it's also very political to change the game in this kind of way. It's very subtle politically, but it is a political proposition, right?
Totally.
In a moment when you staged, and I wrote about that, you staged King Lear in a moment where all over America there are protests, "No King," titled "No King." And I also saw some of the signs that I kind of connected in my mind with your show. These crowns made out of cardboard. And I want to talk about a little bit about this, because you worked with a Romanian-born costume designer. She's actually very successful right now in New York, Oana Botez, and she made some very powerful costumes out of almost nothing. I don't know, it seems like that.
Yeah.
Juana and I have worked together for 20 years. She went to NYU, and we worked together also in Cluj. It was fun to do that, for her to come. She was born in Craiova, actually. I just heard that. So, and she's not here. She's very busy at the moment, but we love working together. We've done some of the pictures up there are actually of her work. But not the Merchant of Venice, not the ones in Italy, but the ones, but some of the others. So,
Denisa, dacă ești aici, poți să faci ceva cu computerul, să meargă din nou.
But to answer the question, our aesthetic is very important. And the gesture of, there's a lot of decoration that goes on in the theater, and I'm not, I'm against it. I'm totally against it. In fact, it gives me mental indigestion. So, I just want to see what's the essence, what is the purity, what is the thing that will lead us there and take us there so that we can breathe. And Juana and whoever I work with, the lights, Krista Ackerland often I work with, and we work together. The Tempest was her work too, Juana's work. But with the costumes for King Lear, we were inspired by Anselm Kiefer. And I encourage, if you haven't seen this film by Wim Wenders called Anselm, it's a beautiful film about Anselm. These are Juana's costumes. And that was the play that I did about, that I created. It was my play about Elizabeth I, drawn from the poems, the speeches, the prayers, and the letters of Queen Elizabeth I. It's more like a collage. There were four very different actresses who, it was not chronological, but rather, creating a collage. I was trying to do it at the place where she lived. Who knows, maybe we'll go to England one day with it. But yes, she did those costumes. And they're very sourced from the research of the time, but changed imaginatively into a simple gesture. So with King Lear, Anselm Kiefer inspired us, the clothes that he makes. He's very prolific and now has huge studios in the south of France where he rides around on a bicycle, And so all the cloaks, the great coats, were sort of done in his style. The painter, again, painted in different ways. Very, very beautiful, very beautiful. And again, Juana always knows that there's gonna be a shift. But the paper crowns, those were also they were made by Tina Kinderman, who's also a painter and an artist in New York, German, and also she was inspired by Anselm Kiefer. So those crowns, which I wanted to be made out of paper and very, very tall. So iconic crowns, and yet like a children's show, and yet very fierce, and with gold, they're very beautiful, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a powerful symbol, and the fact that it's multiplied by being wear by all of the cast members, it's really very powerful. You also have a very site-specific approach with most production, even those who are indoor. And I'm saying that because even in King Lear, you bring the actors in the middle of the audience. How is this working? Is it working every time? Is it taking the audience to be together with the production?
Well, Lear, we're very strong about this gesture. We started because there's a movement in the play and I feel that we're all Lear. We all go on that journey, which is why the 10 Lears are Lear at the beginning, but sharing the speech. Also, there are many people that came up to me after we did some share-outs and said, did you rewrite some of the pronouns so that they're our and us and we? And I said, no, it's the royal we. Yes, no, I said, no. You see how often it's said, how often it's spoken, the wall of power and the assumption of power. But it's also, you know, in English, human, humor, humility, hummus. I think of H-U-M and the connection between the human and his humor. And so Lear does think he's very funny. And I think that we all do think we're very funny. We think we're very witty, generally. You know, sometimes I've noted that people, when people haven't heard or understood the point of the joke, sometimes they repeat it, you know, or repeat the story when no one's really paid as much attention as they wanted to. So I think that we are, and I think Shakespeare picks up on this all the time, and it's something that I always note in working on a Shakespeare text, how funny each character thinks he is. And Lear, you know, in his assumption of power, his assumption, and he's not a corrupt king. It's not like he's a, you know, like some people that we see these days. But he is indeed assumes his kingship, assumes his power, and knows and is shamed quickly by his daughter. It's very telling because when his daughter says nothing, and then he gives her opportunities to repeat, you know, to say, really, what do you mean? And when he says, so young and so tender, and she says, so young, my lord, and true. And then he says, well then, the truth be your dower. And it feels very generational. It feels very generational in the way that we all experience that. I'm amused to encounter some of my students from Yale because, as Cristina said, I have been working there since 2002 on Shakespeare, and so now I'm seeing some of my wonderful students, and they talk about the younger generation. And I say, wow, you see? So we always have this sense, and then we experience that of our parents, and then we either become parents or teachers and aunties and uncles and whatever, and see it in the younger ones. And so there's always that, and I think Shakespeare was always talking about the old and the new and this cycle, you know. And so when Lear says, the truth be your dower, as if to say, see how that works for you. You know, you have no money, you'll get, I'm gonna disown you, and you just have your little truth.
Speak truth to power can cost you everything.
Cost is huge in this play. It's everything, and you go all the way, and the text takes us to places that we are incapable of going in our own lives. And that's what the miracle and the grace and the beauty of the text is, so that we can reach together for more and, you know, see how the theater changes us in making the play, changes us in witnessing the play, in witnessing each other. It's very important to me for the actors to witness each other as characters and as actors, and to witness all the actions on the stage. So there's a constant observation, because Shakespeare was always teaching an audience how to be an audience. And I think that that is the joy. It's actually a joy. It's not painful. It's surprisingly, you know, freeing. It's very freeing. And so I've been thrilled by the response at La Mama and the critical attention we've had. I feel like some of the critics have responded like poets, you know, in a beautiful response to what they witnessed. And so it's a real coming together.
You had great reviews, we must say that, great reviews, including in New York Times, which is not very generous sometimes. I wrote about that in Scena.ro, and I felt, as a member of the audience, sometimes in a little bit of discomfort, which I think is great, because you have to move yourself and go follow the actors in order to really capture all that they say, or the movement. So it's really good because it gets you out of your comfort zone, and like you said, it makes you think about where you can go with this story. Is this your story? It's not your story. It can be, yeah, that's really powerful. So you thought about all these movements that you can create in an audience, even indoor.
Yes, yes, and eventually the play moves on the stage, so that we're all, you know, there's a moment, because I divided it into movements. The second movement begins, for instance, when Cordelia says nothing the second time. So the first time, there's a particular response in the room by, you know, created by King Lear himself, and he's still in control. When he says nothing, and then she says nothing second time, the play changes direction. And that's where I think a lot of musically and rhythm. I mean, Lorca said the most important thing about any production is its rhythm. So there's music, but the rhythm of the whole piece, the movement of the piece, the way it's going, because that is how we can catch each other's, the feeling, the body, the ears, and using this, because of course the play particularly emphasizes see better Lear, look, see better Lear, and it ends with look there, and the question is, what does he see? You know, and so seeing more, but the rhythm is very, very important. All these things come together. It takes a long time. It can't be done quickly.
Of course, you worked a lot with Shakespeare, with various Shakespeare plays. You work with your students and try to understand more about Shakespeare with each generation. Which play do you love the most, if that's possible, and which one is most loved by your students, the new generation? With what play they most connect?
Yeah, you know, they love the play they're working on.
All of them, because of you.
Yes, they love the play they're working on. They get obsessed by it. This next year, the plays are Julius Caesar, that they're working on, and Titus Andronicus, very timely, and King John, which I'm really delighted about, because I did a big King, I mean, it's really exciting. I typically don't talk about my own productions with the students. They just, I try to bring out what they're doing and their vision they can only do it in 90 minutes, so they are given a chance to really dance with the writer, you know, and they only have 6 to 8 actors in the play. So yeah, so it's really the play they're working on. They get very excited about.
They extract the essence
of
it.
They get, you know, varying degrees, some better than others, but they're pretty good, not bad.
Okay, so if I know you're kind of in a hurry because you have to rehearse today in a new space, and I'm really looking forward to see how you can do that in a new space, being so site-specific about it. But maybe there are questions. I want to offer the chance for our colleagues and students and younger colleagues to ask you something about these pictures, about King Lear, about Shakespeare in general.
That's not a question, but just to
comment.
say that the Venice work is one of the most moving and powerful theatrical experiences I have ever had.
saw that in Venice?
Yes.
Wow, tell us more
It's
about
fantastic.
it.
Yeah, I love hearing that.
Oh, you need a microphone.
I love hearing that, Elliot. Yeah, that's beautiful. I know the 5 Shylock. We had in Venice. We were invited to go there in 2016, and as I said, two events collided: the 500th anniversary of the founding of the ghetto with the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's death. And of course, Shylock is often seen as, both, a character that is either the hero of the play or a character that is much maligned. And I wanted to show him in his humanity, because I think that the thing, again, this word human is very important to me, and that Shakespeare got to the heart of what it is to be human, and to hear these thoughts expressed, that actors love doing Shakespeare, love it, because it's so human, because it allows the whole landscape of the body to participate. So I wanted 5 Shylocks, because there was some desire, to maybe have a famous person, and I resisted that because I thought, then we're comparing performances. And again, the same thing with Lear, then we're comparing performances rather than saying, how do we really enter into this play as an audience through a collective, through, and I'm not saying that's the only way to do things, but it feels like a way to do it now, because we have gone so far in individualism, especially in the country where I live, in New York City, and that there's a great deal of attention paid on that, and we've gone about as far as we can go. And I think now we have to calibrate it with the community, with the collective. And so with the Shylocks, there are 5 scenes, and one Shylock per scene, and then they came together 2 times. Once in a howl, which was extraordinary, a moment where Shylock number 3, who happened to be played by a woman, just screamed out, howled. Actually, it wasn't a scream, it was a like this, that you could really hear anything drop. I mean, with a pen, you could hear a paperclip drop. It was extraordinary. And people wrote about it. People talked about that moment of the pain, because the stories, the untold stories, came up through the stones, through her body and into the air, and the walls were witnessing. And we know that the people were taken away to the camps, not as many as other places, but 200 people in the ghetto. So it felt very important. And it was deep, but connecting with history, political and metaphysical. That's what we aim for.
It's happening. So what is the next project of Compagnia di Colombari in this sense, or maybe even a Shakespeare or not?
Well, the next project that we're doing, I don't know if anyone here knows the writer. She's a Southern writer called Flannery O'Connor, and she's a wonderful, witty, brilliant writer. She died in 1964, and a couple of things up there are from her work. I've done her work off-Broadway since 2001, and prepared some of it at Sundance, but now I'm doing a new piece of hers called Revelation. She was a short story writer, and I always felt that her drama could be matched by a theatricality. So the drama of the text, which is 16 pages now, the mandate from the estate was that I had to speak every single word of the text, and the container became a very exciting one, because it allowed for surprise theatricality, that I could play with the narration and the characters on stage, and combine them, and so it's really thrilling, and I hope, because she really talks about, her concern is really where we're all going together, what we're all doing together, but she does address black and white, and as we know, that's a very critical thing in the United States, and so the next piece, Revelation, I've cast the provincial white characters all in with people, Americans of color. So black and brown and just everybody but not white. And they speak the words, and it's really very moving. It's very funny and very moving, and I'm excited. We're going to open that in Portland, Maine, and then we're going to do it at La Mama in 2027.
That's great. It's really exciting. And it's going to be inside, right?
It's going to be inside. Yeah, this one is prepared for the stage. It's going to be no set except 10 chairs, one red bucket, one big book that is thrown, and then lights. Lights are, there are 3 movements in the story. So I've made a theatricality of it. We've been working on it for 6 years. So, yeah, now it's ready. It's ready.
Any other comments? Yes, sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know that Shakespeare has been put in scene and directed by many directors throughout time. How do you manage to remain authentic, and where do you inspire from when you're directing in general?
Oh, that's lovely. The words that Shakespeare speaks, the words, and just going back to the confrontations, and so many things happen. I get a vision of how, and sometimes I get a vision for how it could be, and then more happens. Like for instance, when I asked the Shylock who did this howl, who was the only woman of the 5 Shylocks, and I said, Jenny, would you consider, there are so many traditions which have the keening, the women who keen at the death, right? So in Greece and in Italy and in Romania, all over, right? All over, this kind of, and I said, would you, consider, would you let the words move into this, and this consideration of keening for somebody that's gone. It's like Shylock is mourning the departure of his daughter, who, with Jessica's departure, it's as if the Judaism in the family, because he loved his wife. There's evidence of that only in one line. It's a ring that was given to me when I was a bachelor by Leah. And it's such an extraordinary little moment that, you just get these little clues, and you get his heart, that he misses her, that it was given to him by his beloved, and that ring was taken by Jessica, and that Jessica went off with somebody who was not Jewish and took all the money. It's not about the money. Everyone says, oh, Shylock is just caring about money. Well, we all would, right? But, it's his daughter. It's his daughter leaving. And that going to the humanity of the characters, that's what Shakespeare does. And if a director or an actor judges the character, then we're in trouble. And you have to get inside. A character judges a character. Characters judge characters and go to very far places, as we do. Because we can be very nasty. I can be, about our considerations or thoughts about somebody else. The first thought, well, or being hurt. What is that about? And then it moves into anger. We go through, or we've had times of that, you know, but we understand that, we all do. So characters do that, but the actor and the director need to go inside those characters. And I think the humanity then flourishes. And then we recognize that and see and smell the truth, you know, without being distant, you know, when you can sit back and say, oh, I see what they're doing. Then you're not leaning into it to say, you know, okay, I'm catching something of my own experience. So it's really trying to, in radical presence, which goes to the root of, you know, our presence and the presence of what may be invisible, you know, and because the theater has so much capacity to acknowledge the invisible, you know, what is not seen, what is not seen.
You had a comment.
Yeah. I had a question about the fragmentariness. I mean, you fragmented Shylock into 5, you fragmented, or you had Lear fragmented, or Lear fragmented himself into 10. And I'm really drawn to this notion of fragmenting the character as an expression of the vulnerability that makes us human.
Yes.
The messiness that makes us human, the discomfort amongst the various aspects of self that, you know, that clash with each other. So I'm really interested in that. And of course I haven't seen Lear. And I remember distinctly in, you know, that amazing initial production how Jessica was the wholeness, you know, especially at the end of the production, you know, Jessica was the one who was connecting what was happening on the stones of the ghetto with the audience on this, you know, kind of in posture, in position on the ghetto, the rat's seat. Jessica was the connecting force, the one.
Yes.
And Shylock was, you know, the collage. And so I was wondering if there is a connecting force in Lear, which I'm really looking forward to seeing, or can one put Lear back together?
Well, Cordelia,
Cordelia.
I mean, Cordelia means, the name means cœur de Lear. So Cordelia, cœur, the heart of Lear. You know, she's just a girl, and she changes the whole play. and that's what I love. You know, she stands up to the power. It's at a great cost, but she never gives up. You know, and then she comes back as, you know, a queen. And there's that extraordinary scene where, you know, he says, you have some cause. And she says, no cause. No cause. That's real forgiveness. That's forgiveness. I mean, that's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. And so, that they're united is something that we're very hungry for. I feel that we're hungry for something beyond, you know, what we see and what is played out for us, you know, and so, and it goes beyond what even we're capable of. And then, of course, yeah, at the end, you know, you'll see, I'll be excited to hear what you think. Because the Lears are together, you know, they're at the beginning, in the middle, and then at the end. So you'll see. We're all Lear, go on that journey, and then we can identify with other characters too. It's really about fathers, and I dropped the wives. I mean, I'm sorry, I dropped the husbands. God bless the husbands, but no, I dropped them because it's really, the important thing here is generational. It's about the fathers and the children. The fathers and the children. There are 3 daughters and then 2 sons. And seeing how Edgar also, who really holds the play together, is an extraordinary character, just sent into the abyss, doesn't know why. Extraordinary. But Cordelia, yeah.
I love that it's less about it's less a meditation on aging, which is always the first layer of Lear. It's more a generational interchange.
Yeah, he's vital. He's vital. Even that some people, like there was a Laurence Olivier production in 1988 or something like that. I saw it on BBC, and it's interesting. But he's a very aged Lear, and it's very interesting to watch. But you become worried about the Lear, and you think, and that's not where I want to go as an audience member. I'm interested to enter into, what are the things that he says that he's held accountable for. Not okay. We're going to let him off the hook because he's frail. Yet there's a lot of that going on, where it's everyone's but Shakespeare didn't do that. He holds everyone accountable. That's what I love the writer for. He doesn't say, oh, poor so-and-so. That we do a lot of that kind of writing now. Poor so-and-so, I'm just a girl, I'm just this, or I'm just that. There's no excuse. I'm sorry, no excuse. You just do it. Yes, some are given, and when you're given a lot, you have a lot to hold up. You have a lot to do, and you have to have kindness. But we each have to go forward, and we have to be strong.
And we're responsible.
Yeah, be responsible. Yes.
Okay. I totally agree. We have to be responsible, no matter the age. Anyone else who wants to comment, maybe, or ask something? That's true. It's 1 p.m. Okay. So we're going to see.
I have lots of questions, but maybe I can ask them a bit later.
Yes.
we talk.
Absolutely. Come to the play. I'll be there.
Everybody come to the play.
And it's tomorrow night at what? 7.
7.
No, tomorrow night's 8 because we need a full rehearsal. Tomorrow's at 8.
Colibri Theater.
Yeah,
Right?
Colibri, the children's theater. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karin. Thank you for coming to Romania and
Yes.
for doing this. And see you
Mulțumesc.
tomorrow. Mulțumesc.